I genuinely believe that I'm kind and generous and well-intentioned and all the rest. But niceness, it's a currency, and it is a way in which we get to hold people up, but also will knock them down.
Welcome to the Higher Love with Megan podcast with me, your host, Megan Cooper, a trauma-informed therapist, life coach and disruptor of wellness norms based in Brighton, UK. This isn't another nice-to-have wellness podcast. Instead, this podcast seeks to redefine what it means to be well in today's world. Here, we challenge the status quo, seek to reunite wellness with social justice and improve accessibility, diversity and inclusivity within wellness and beyond. As a listener, you are not here to passively consume. Instead, you are an ambassador for real, embodied, societal and systemic change in the world. As your host, I stand for radical self-inquiry and being able to have those confronting but necessary conversations so that we can remember our collective humanity at this time. We're here for the revolution and you've got a front row seat. Welcome this morning, Illiyin. It's so great to have you on the show.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
And before, of course, we go any further, I just want to center this within the conversation. Free Palestine, free Sudan, free Congo, and free all human life.
With.
I know that probably many of my listeners know who you are. I'm sure that lots of people follow you already. But I would love for anybody who is not familiar with you and your work, for you just to introduce yourself in any way that feels alive for you today.
Yeah, so I'm Illiyin Morrison. I am a midwife, author, birth debrief facilitator. So I specialise in sort of processing difficult, traumatic, upsetting perinatal experiences. So from preconception all the way to like years postnatal. I've ventured into grief processing as well. So grief around from things like the state of the world to loss of identity, loss of people, breakdowns of relationships, friendships. The kind of framework was always very similar to that of perinatal experiences. So I just shifted it a little bit. I also was on last year's Great British Bake Off, which was cool. I love food, but for me, everything always comes back to the political foundation. And I don't necessarily do food the way other people do food, but it is one of my passions alongside sort of advocacy and sort of caring for humanity, which should be a passion of all of ours, but as we can see, it's not.
And I deeply enjoy a lot of your videos, which is the kind of get ready with me. You also do those, but the get ready with me, the get cooking with me, where you just talk about advocacy and all the things that we should really be caring about. So yes, it seems like the resistance manifests itself in pretty much all of the content, which I love. Just on that vein of the content that you produce, you write really my interpretation is that you write incredibly impactfully with a lot of clarity, a lot of moral clarity. And a question came up for me of, have you always found that quite easy to be able to communicate in that way, or using your voice in that kind of way? Has that been something that you've had to hone or work into?
Yeah, I think every skill that we have, even if like most people have some type of baseline skill, there is not a person that exists on this planet that does not have that. But everything that we want to do, it needs refining. And that doesn't mean we need to study it. It means that we need to practice it and we need to be intentional in it, and we need to expose ourselves to opportunities where we get to be in it and to do it. I've definitely gone through like different phases with it, and one being reckless and just being like, I say what I want, how I want, when I want, where I want, to lots of self-shaming, which was like, actually, you're not going to say that. That's not right. That's a lot of that rooted in people's intentional or unintentional misunderstanding of the things that I'm saying, which would then result in me feeling shame about what I said based on how it was understood. Now I am 32. I've lived through some things and I still don't care, but I came to this realization. I write like I'm teaching. I write because I want you to understand. And that gave me such clarity in what I wanted to say, because it's like actually write as if you're speaking to children. And that's not disregarding people's intelligence or undermining their intelligence, but it's like my dad is a historian and an editor and writer, linguist, and he's one of those people that you speak to him and you're like, what did you say? I don't know what you said because you used some big words right there, and I don't want to seem dumb, so I'm just going to say okay. And I'm like, I want what I say to be felt as well as to be heard. And in order for things to be felt, we have to understand what they mean. And in order to understand what they mean, we have to use the language that is universal in its understanding. So essentially, the way I write is so that if you were to put it into Google Translate, it would still be the same. It's not asking for further explanation or a breakdown of some sort. It's taken me a while to develop it. And on top of that, I'm dyslexic and have always found writing quite difficult, having been institutionalized. But now I'm like, did you understand what I said? Was there a typo? But did you understand it? And if you understood it, then it's fine. Copy, paste and correct if you want. As long as the understanding is clear, then my work is done.
Yeah. Do you have a bit of a process about how you go about writing? I'll give you an example that Miss Anne Harriman shared with me when I interviewed him, and I shared it a number of times on his Instagram, that when he sees something and he feels moved to write about it, he'll wait for 2 hours to let it marinate and digest and then create. Do you have a similar process of kind of feeling into what you want to say first, or is it quite spontaneous, or is it a bit of a mix? How do you find that?
Yeah, most of my writing is pretty ad hoc, which is also why there are typos, because I'll get a thought and then be like, oh my gosh, and then it goes developing. But I have to lay down that thought first, because my brain, it works like it fires shots all the time. So I don't stay with anything for a prolonged amount of time. And so if I get a thought, I'm like, yes, that is right. That's what you want to say. And then later on, like those who follow me on Instagram might see that I will then be like, bring it back to that point, because something else will occur to me afterwards. But also, I'm Muslim and we get up. There's a night prayer, and the night is the time that my mind works best. And often some of my best thoughts and my best writing have come in that time of silence and stillness of the night that the day doesn't afford. There's an element of processing, and also if I really need to dig deep to get what I want from whatever I'm thinking, I wait for that time, and it usually comes.
Before we go on, I'd so appreciate you to hit follow or subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, click those 3 little dots next to settings to rate the show. On Apple Podcasts, you can leave a review, or take a moment to explore how you can rate or review on the platform that you're listening or watching. This makes a difference. I truly believe we need to have more of these conversations to shake up the status quo. We'll beat the algorithm together with your clicks and shares. Now back to the episode. You've shared a couple of times that I've seen where you've had a very kind of strong stance on, I'm not nice, but I'm kind. And if someone doesn't agree with you, you just don't really care and they don't need to let you know. Yeah. Has that also been something that you've had to develop? Did you used to care a lot more about kind of people's rebuttal, what people thought? How's that been for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think as well, I started using Instagram just as a means for just sharing whatever. And it evolved very fast, and through like natural processes, it's obviously at some point I'll become like an influencer, or it will be where I generate my income and whatever. And when you're in that game, you do have to filter yourself and you have to play the game, and essentially people's thoughts of you are what keep you paid. And so for a while it was like, oh, be careful how you say this and what you say, and that doesn't pay my bills. I am not an influencer. I like to say to people very clearly, I am not what you would call a modern day influencer. I, through some miracle, have influence, but I'm not an influencer. I'm not on a payroll, giving me the freedom to say whatever I want, giving me the freedom to curate my circle and to not really need to care about being liked. I think that being liked is something that we've been conditioned to believe is of utmost importance. And throughout the journey to being liked, we often don't even like ourselves. For me, it was way more important that I like and respect myself than that I am liked by a load of strangers who actually don't contribute to my life in any way tangible. So that's also where that sort of nice, like kind but not nice thing comes in. I'm kind. I genuinely believe that I'm kind and generous and well-intentioned and all the rest. But niceness, like this niceness thing, it's a currency, and it is a way in which we get to hold people up, but also will knock them down. When you suddenly become not nice, which equates to being not compliant and not conforming to the status quo, you are suddenly disregarded because your value within that transaction is no longer benefiting those who benefit from your niceness. For me, it's like, I don't really care about being nice because I don't describe people that I really rate as nice. So it's okay. I don't mind if you don't like me because I'm not nice. I mind if you don't like me because you know me and you think I'm unkind. If you come to me with that, then we can have a conversation. But if you're going to be like, oh, actually, I thought you were nicer than you are, but you're actually not, that's fine. Go be with your nice people.
Totally. And I think also the people that I probably resonate most with these days are the ones that are not palatable for the status quo. So yeah, I love that. Thank you so much. There was something that you wrote when I was doing my little cyber stalk, as I always do before podcast interviews. And I just was wondering if you could speak to that, which was, when we become adults, we make an unspoken promise to the children. How does that land for you today?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same. I think all of us, we have an inner child. And when we then become adults who get to create change and get to influence how people's lives can be, if we tap into our inner child, that will help us to do better and to protect other children. And we recognize the vulnerability of being children and the exposure of being children and the sort of delicate nature of childhood in itself. And if we are people who are reflective and who are intentional and who are able to be introspective, you will always look out for the children because you recognize that they don't have the capability, they don't have the maturity, they don't have the freedoms to be able to have all of that. And so we become their protectors and we become the spaces that they should have to be able to begin to access that part of themselves. And that's that physical safety, emotional safety, mental safety. If as the adults we aren't providing that for them, who is providing that for them? And what subsequent generation of adults are we expecting to have? The promise to my children and to all the children will always be the same. And it is that this space here is for you to be able to develop, which is all children are trying to do. They're just developing, they're trying to grow and trying to be. And the promise I have made to my children and the children is that here, that's what you can do. But yeah, I still wholeheartedly believe in that.
Yeah, no, I just thought it was such a beautiful phrase. So I really wanted to just bring that into the conversation. You shared that you started your business as a quote unquote disillusioned, traumatized midwife who needed a space to express all that you were without being pigeonholed into anything in particular. I'm just curious, when you started your business, which I believe was back in 2017, what narratives did you want to challenge or change at the time around birth trauma?
Yeah, so I qualified as a midwife in 2017.
Okay,
and I worked at a very busy London trust for 2 and a bit years. And if I go back a little bit more, I was homeschooled from the age of 6 to 16, meaning that the way in which my brain worked was a little bit different to the sort of mainstream brain conditioning. But it meant that I found it very difficult to be part of systems of compliance. And not because homeschooling made me somewhat rebellious or anti-authority. You have to really believe in an authority to be against it. And so that in itself was like, I'm not anti-authority. I just don't believe that this is a thing. I find hierarchy quite a confusing thing. And so for me, going into working in a sort of system such as the NHS was quite complicated. But also it wasn't just to do with the work itself. It was to do with the nature of working in a very female dominated space and not being popular. So I was not and am not popular for the reasons why people are popular. So I don't drink, I don't go out, I couldn't like play the game too much. And then when you go into those spaces, and we know that bullying is rife in the NHS, so we know that those things exist, and we know that the hierarchies exist, and I was bottom rung. For me, it was just getting by. But I never believed in it because I thought that this is not a system that is serving the people. This is a system that is serving the system. And I've gone into this job as a midwife to serve the people. I had my daughter and it was a difficult birth, and I came out of it not being particularly supported, not having been supported by colleagues, or because it was so normal for us. It was so normal that planned home birth ends up in a cesarean section, and it was just nothing. And after experiencing a shift that was particularly difficult, and basically promising myself that I wouldn't be someone's negative memory through something that I could control, I quit and had no idea what I was going to do, but knew that I wanted to create something that had agency and something that reflected who I was and what I wanted to offer. So when I started in 2020, it started off really, I was like, I don't know, let's just see if people want to talk to me, as it's just a listening service. And within 6 weeks, I had a 6-week waiting list.
Wow.
And obviously peaks and troughs, business is business. But over the years, I have done over 1,000 hours of debriefing, working with women, families, couples, to process those experiences. Obviously, I've written a book, The Birth Debrief, as well. It's opened so many doors. I think sometimes we get really caught up in, like, when we are disillusioned, we sink into it and it just becomes a permanent state. But like with everything, I'm like, if we get active in what this thing is presenting, we will be able to change the narrative. And I believe that's what I've done.
What narratives would you say then that you are trying to create within birthing?
Yeah. So the narratives within birthing that I'm trying to create is that birthing is something that happens with you. Pregnancy, conception, all of those things are things that happen with you physically, but also mentally and emotionally. They require your presence. And a lot of the time we don't give it that because, one, it's highly medicalized, but two, it's, oh yeah, these things just happen to us. And part of the thing that I want to break down is that things don't need to happen to us because we are autonomous human beings. And it's how I've been able to transfer my work into so many different areas because the concept is the same, it's just the context that is different. And so it's okay, cool. So actually, no one is delivering my baby. I am giving birth and I'm supported in that. It's that thing that I really want to try and spin for a lot of people, that I want them to be active participants in their processes. And I want them, and the only way to really be able to do that is to understand the force that you are and the power that you have within you, however that is expressed, and to be able to work with that accordingly. I'm not one of those people that's going to say, shout, scream, do whatever, because for some people, that really doesn't work. Like, they're not shouters, they're not screamers. And when someone tells them to do that, it feels like more pressure. It feels more intimidating. It feels wrong, so they can't do it. And then that adds to something else that they've failed at and they've not been successful in. So it's actually, and when I'm debriefing with people, I'm like, tell me about yourself. I want to know you, so that then we can put things in place according to who you are. And that is how you start to really develop a power that has been taken away from people. So that is the main narrative, but also that birth and pregnancy and conception and all of those things are wondrous life lessons. And that if we lean into what they're teaching, we will evolve as individuals. Again, it's like if we don't see ourselves as these active participants, we don't really learn from what they're showing us. We only see it as symptoms, outcomes, diagnosis and things like that, and we don't see our own evolution within it. So from my own experience, it was like, oh, that was a terrible birth. And then it was a catalyst. Like, it was a catalyst for so many openings, because once I'd worked through my own stuff, I was able to tap into what I'd learned. And then I was able to hone it into something that I could share with others. Everything is learning, everything is growth, and we just have to be given the spaces that afford us to recognize that.
What do you feel like those were catalyzing within you?
Yeah, so my daughter's birth definitely taught me that I'm absolutely not in charge of anything, and that I was one of those people that would say, I suppose, as a way to protect myself from feeling embarrassed, I would say that things didn't matter to me. I would be like, no, it's fine if it works out, and blah, 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 and just trying to act very cavalier. But in actual fact, I'm not cavalier. I'm not cavalier about anything. Like, I care. And I can show that I care. And I can also show that I can be disappointed when things don't go the way that I want them to, or the way that I felt I needed them to. So what ended up after her birth, I was racked with a sense of shame and failure. And it wasn't real. It wasn't real, but it needed to be explored and unpacked. And what did I do to contribute towards that sense? And what did I need to work through in order to make it better, or at least make it something that I could work with? And then with my son's birth, so I had a cesarean section with my daughter, and I went against protocol and decided to have a home birth with my son. And there was lots of fear mongering around that. This is against protocol. This isn't safe. Your baby could die. Blah, blah, blah. And what that really taught me was that risk is subjective, and that different people will look at risk in different ways. And so from a hospital perspective, they're looking at risk, firstly, of litigation, secondly, of clinical outcomes or whatever. From a personal perspective, I'm looking at risk as something that is physical, yes, but also emotional and mental, having realized the implications of not viewing that risk or giving it the importance that it warranted. And so when I weighed up those risks, it was like, yeah, okay, there's a 1 in 200 chance of my scar opening, but there is absolutely a 70% chance of me sinking into sort of a downward spiral if I don't access my actual needs and desires within this. And I birthed him at home in my living room, and it was the most painful, incredible, liberating thing I've ever done, by giving myself the permission to lean into what I wanted and to weigh up risk and to be intentional about what I was wanting to do for both myself and my children, and also the wider community that looked to me as an example of that. Not an example of someone who has a home birth after cesarean, but as an example of someone who is principled in their intention. And his birth was a testament to that.
Do you feel like those experiences have informed an even louder sense within you to advocate for mothers everywhere? And I suppose what I'm pointing towards is perhaps, you know, the ways in which the maternal spaces seem to have selective empathy with whom they advocate for. Do you feel like that really sparked a deeper sense of wanting to advocate for all mothers everywhere?
Part of not being liked and not being worried about being liked means that, like, you genuinely don't give a damn. And so another part of that is that I don't see you as, if I'm advocating for mothers, I'm not looking at their personalities. They're not my friends. They are people who are in a state or a situation that I can empathize with. I can empathize with it through all of its complexities and all of its beauty, but also all of its need and all of its kind of openings, tests that are within it. And what is being asked of us, and I think it's being asked of so many people through shaming and through guilt, is to look at people based on where they're from, who they are, what they do, like they're going to be our friends. Because we are so caught up in it being palatable and being nice, this inability to be able to look at the overarching fact, which is a mother, wherever the mother is, what has left that maternal world silent, because they are conditioned for niceness, and to be able to position people as being worthy of support, of space, of a voice, and of advocacy based on these things, this stuff. It's stuff. It's okay. So let's say this mother voted for Hamas. Let's say that's the case, right? Does that mean that she should die? Is this what we're saying? Does that mean that we don't speak up for them as mothers and as people who birth children and as people and professionals like ourselves who've said, I am here and committed to women and mothers internationally? We say, but not you. Really, it's rooted in racism, white saviorism, selective activism, and money. And I don't buy into any of that. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a damn. Like, it's not what we're going to do. And so on top of that, there was absolutely no way that I would be able to look my children in the eye, or my friends, or the women and families that I support, and say that I am choosing a side. It goes against everything I am.
Yeah. Have you found that you've been surprised by the widespread silence of motherhood spaces, birthing spaces, or did you, I suppose, it sounds like you'd already seen the cracks around the kind of capitalist, white supremacist challenges or limitations within the system. Did you expect the silence that we are experiencing at this time, or has it continued to surprise and shock you?
I'm not being cocky, but nothing surprises me. Very rarely am I surprised, especially by human behavior. And part of that is because ultimately, and obviously social media has really done a number on this, it's made birth business. And if we go back, birth was familial, like it was in community, and it was just a core component of life, like it was just what we did. And gradually, as capitalism has got its filthy paws on every part of everything, we see that it becomes business. Now, business, in order to be sustained, has to have certain measures and has to have ways in which it can keep us right in the palm of its hand. And that is these are the conditions. You play the game. And so if what we are ruled by is money and capitalism and this idea of success equating to what is in your bank, then it is no surprise to me that there are many people who are absolutely silent, because if you come for someone's money, that is how you'll get them. That's what so many people, this is why we have people like DJ Khaled saying absolutely nothing, because it will get in the way of his money. And for me, there is an Arabic word called risk, which is provision. And my provision has never, ever come from money. Like, it's not come from Instagram. It's not come from playing the game. Like, God has already determined that my provision is there. So I don't need to worry about that. And I committed to that. But many people don't have that. Many people don't have that. And that's not me saying I'm superior, but it's to say that actually, even if they were to acknowledge the trap that they're in, it would be better than trying to act like there is some type of moral decision making that is taking place here. So I am absolutely guided by a moral compass and by a sort of unattachment from this world and its things. But to answer your question, I'm not surprised at all. I really do pity those people, because for what they are selling out, it is not guaranteeing the success of their businesses. They might think it is, but the money that you are accumulating are numbers on a screen that could disappear tomorrow. And that thing that you think you're holding on to can slip through your fingers. And what you'll be left with is an empty corpse, nothing, with no moral direction and no sense of ethics and humanity. And so if that is what you are willing to sacrifice, I wish you all the best.
Amen to that. And we've spoken there around, I guess, the wider collective space of motherhood, but there's something that you wrote which I also again just wanted to bring in, which I thought was so poignant, where you said, when one mother screams, don't we all? And it really made me think about things that I've heard, things that people have said to me, things that people have shared with me, where mothers have said, I can't look at what's happening in the world. As a mother, I can't look at the images. As a mother, I can't engage with that much pain and suffering. How do you reconcile that type of conversation from individuals?
Yeah, I think what we are seeing is this sort of kid gloves of privilege, and they have kept us cushioned in so many things. Oh no, you can't handle it. You can't. It told us that we can't handle it, that we shouldn't be viewing those things and blah, blah, blah. But again, it's where we don't see learning opportunities and everything, and growth opportunities and everything, because one, I can handle way more than I've been told I can handle. And particularly as women and as mothers, we're told that we are so fragile, yet we are treated like shit by society, and we still persevere. So is it that we actually are weak? Or is it that we've just been told that we are so that we can be kept down? And is it that if we all use that strength and exposed ourselves to the real risks that actually pertain to ourselves and our children, because borders are drawn by men, they're not real. They're not real. It means that we are at risk of these same things happening to us by just being inhabitants of this planet. So if we were to go, right, she's me, I am she, this is a thing, then we wouldn't be like, I need to turn away because it's too much pain. We'd say, I'm exposing myself to this pain because I know that I run this same risk. And I know that I feel what she feels and I can understand it. And of course, it's difficult, but it's also how we develop compassion and empathy. And it is how we feel humanity. That is how we do it. If we avoid it, what do we think we're learning? Like, where's our growth in it? If we say, oh, no, I'm not going to look, what happens? When it comes for you, it will smack you in the face. And not if. It's not if. You don't get to go around and just shit on people over and over again and think that at some point it's not going to come back and get you. So it's more a question of when. And those kid gloves are just another way to keep us compliant and to keep us conforming to whatever the status quo is. If we've learned anything over the past 2 years at least of watching this live stream genocide, it's that actually, if we are exposed to all of this, we will crumble. We, here in England, we fought over toilet paper. Okay? That's what you could wash with just water that we have running through our taps. But we fought over toilet paper. And yet we want to look at the people of Gaza and the people of Sudan and the people of the Congo as if they are savages. We want to look at them and ask why they aren't being polite in their onslaught, or why they aren't just being compliant when we fought for the toilet paper. So these kid gloves that we're kept with, they're there and they're not going to serve us. So if there is a mother, I say, you can be boundaried in what you watch. You don't have to watch everything, but you need to know. You need to know so that you feel. You need to know so that you're prepared. And you need to know so that you stand up. Because any mother who watches what these other mothers are experiencing and can just turn away, it's not about her as a mother, it's her as an individual. And that is a much bigger problem that she has to deal with herself. But what we found is the mothers that do watch, they're the mothers who scream, they're the mothers who shout, they're the mothers who say, I can't be quiet. They're the mothers that are getting on people's bloody nerves because they hold people to account over and over again. And they're the mothers who are teaching their children exactly what they need to be able to navigate a world that can witness, finance, and encourage the mass starvation and slaughter of a population of 2 million people.
Yeah.
And think that it's okay.
Yeah. There's so much that you just shared in there. My mind's gone into so many different tangents where I want to take this. When you shared that there were people who would look on at what's happening in Gaza as people behaving like savages, my mind just goes to how much grace actually these people have shown in the worst suffering that we've perhaps seen live streamed on the internet over the last 2 years. And I always look at the fortitude, the courage, the grace that these people have, that if I was in that same environment, I think I'd last 2 seconds. People with no food, people with no aid, people being bombed, intentionally starve relentlessly, and still show so much humanity and so much love is unbelievable. For me, it's just like the absolute pinnacle of humanity that needs preserving and protecting. And something that I've noticed, you know, I can't believe that this has been live streamed for 2 years, but I remember at the beginning I found it difficult to watch, really difficult, and I did want to turn away. That was that protection nervous system thing that kicks in, that does want to put up a little bit of a wall in order to protect you. But what I noticed was actually, as I stayed in it, I developed a bigger bandwidth to stay with it as well. Not from a place of becoming desensitized to it. I'm very much not desensitized to it. But just from, so I think what you were saying there was surprising ourselves with actually how much we can hold and how much we can stay in something when society has given us all of those narratives of, oh, but it's someone else's problem. Oh, someone else will sort it out. Oh, you can't do anything. So I think we surprise ourselves and have the ability to do that.
Absolutely. I think as well, like, once you get past this sort of reactive, that was awful, I can't believe this, you start to become more responsive in the sense of being like, okay, right, so what is it wanting from me? Like, a lot of the time, people might see something and their reaction is what drives them to go, I'm never doing that again, never watching that again. That was awful. But if they just sit for a second, the body and the mind, which are miraculous vehicles, go, all right, now what? So what are you going to do? What's your action within this so that you aren't passive? What is it that you'd like to do? And you then go, cool, this is what I'm going to do. If I'm going to join a protest, I'm going to donate some money. I'm going to talk to my kids. I'm going to wear a keffiyeh. I'm going to find out more. I'm going to read. But you have to allow yourself to come down from that spiking reactiveness to go, what role do I want to take within this? It's always going to be difficult to watch. But if a bigger problem is not finding the mass starvation slaughter of people difficult to watch. If you are finding that you can watch that and turn the other channel or whatever, turn the channel, that's really more of a problem than if you have a very human response or reaction to seeing such violence. For those people who are like, oh my gosh, I see it and I just can't, it's human. Yes, we like you. That's fine. Those who are like, I wrote something recently about how people watch what is unfolding as if it's a film. And they go, oh God, scary bit. Oh, God, my eyes. Oh, then keep watching and forward this bit, then whatever. And it's, you people were worried about you because this is happening right here on the planet that you live on. It's that thing of don't ever shame yourself for a human reaction, but recognize that you can also have a human response that comes with sitting and being still and becoming informed, and maybe your mind being changed and developing and evolving as a person, which you're never too old to do.
You've spoken about this crisis of apathy that we seem to be in. I think that's obviously present within that exact example that you've shared of kind of people looking at this as if they are in just watching a horror show. What do you see as the antidote to this crisis of apathy? You've obviously shared there about allowing ourselves to then become responsive and take action. Is there anything else that you would add to that around apathy?
Community. There's part of what is intentionally being done to us as a society is this glorification of individualism to create basically a society of selfish ghouls. It's very much intentional. We can see it if you just kind of take a second to step back. There's a fear of community because if you unite the people under a collective umbrella and a collective belief in morality and humanity and justice, the force that is scary to those in leadership. It's why they're coming for our freedom to protest. Is why our social media gets censored all the time. It's why the people who get the opportunities in business spaces are the ones who are silent and the ones who work with a kind of tunnel vision of individualism, whereas those ones who are activists and who go out and create communities are penalized continuously because there's a danger. If there was no danger, we wouldn't be penalized for it. And if you are feeling that you are apathetic, go and talk to someone. Be amongst the people who will then stimulate empathy and compassion, because all that's happened to you is that you have existed in this society of individualism and apathy and violence and normalization of harm on your own for too long.
Yeah. That makes so much sense, and I really feel that. A very live example being all of this week, I've really struggled to process the death of the journalists on Sunday night. All of this week, I've just been going around, work, things that I've had to take care of, and then last night went up to the vigil at Downing Street, followed by Palestine House, where you feel you're in the heartbreak of it all, but you're with your people as well. And it's that real reminder of humanity as well at the end of the day. So I'm so pleased that you brought that in. I think community has been such an important part of the last couple of years, and it reminds me of something else that you posted around if people are afraid of lending their voice, their faces to movements and putting themselves out there because of the fear of repercussions within their business, within their communities. You talked about this kind of like new ecosystem coming through around that. Could you speak to that?
Yeah, I think we are really recognizing a massive shift. And again, it's something that is being feared because actually, I think the age of celebrity is tanking. The idolization of people is disappearing. And what people are really seeking is not this kind of accumulation of wealth and capitalism, but they are looking for heart, and they're looking for how, like, they look to people that they can learn from and people that can show them something, that can be examples of things that are actually attainable for them. No one cares about what Kim Kardashian is doing anymore. No one gives a monkeys, because actually they realize that what they were striving for is not fulfilling in the way that it needs to be. And what we've got now is that there are people who are being upheld in ways that they should be, for things that they should be as well. And that is uncomfortable for this kind of idea of influencer marketing and all of that stuff. But it is creating an evolution of change. And that's very exciting. I think we're still trapped. And it is something that I wanted to touch on, is that celebrity is going to celebrity. And because the only way we know in which to uplift people is to create idols or celebrities of them, we can all get caught up in it. We can get really trapped in this idea of, oh yeah, like people think I'm a celebrity in this space and I'm the voice of this space and And I don't consider myself to be better than anyone else, but I have to always come back to my intention when I do things, because it's so easy, other than absolute Zionist idiots. In my comment section, I have lots of people affirming what I'm saying. You're incredible, you're this, you're that, you're the other. And anyone who knows me knows that I don't really, I find those kind of compliments very uncomfortable, because I'm just thanks. And Not because not because I'm not grateful, but it's because I recognize my ego and I am very much aware of it. And I'm like, this intention that I have, I cannot let it be dominated by my ego because I don't want to be a celebrity. And so it always has to go back to the intention, which is to advocate for the people who are voiceless and to speak up for what is right and to invest in not only mine and my children and my family's existence here, but in whatever is awaiting me in the next life. And so I can't get too caught up in it. And I think that is what I'm seeing with some people. I'm like, oh God, they've become celebrities. Oh God, okay. And I think I said something about Miss Rachel, and all I was saying was that it wasn't even being rude, because I think absolutely, thank you for lending your voice to this and for standing up for what you believe in. Like, incredible. She has taken a battering. But equally, I think whiteness will always white. And celebrity or ideas around celebrity will always prevail. And when you position somebody as an authority, the risk is that they will not be held to the same account as other people. They will not be able to be spoken to the way they should be spoken to, but also they will say things that have no cultural competence and that have no intellectual lens for the history of what they're speaking of, because they've just been told that they are a voice for this thing. But she said something along the lines of, when people join the argument, I say welcome. And I'm like, who are you to welcome people? What are you talking about? Who are you to welcome? What about the minimum 65,000 people who are dead in Gaza who weren't spoken up for? What about the 1-year-olds who are being raped in the DRC? What about the 15 million people that are displaced and being starved in Sudan? Do you get to turn around and be like, welcome late to the party? Or do we say, get it together? Get it together. Like, you're here, okay, but you aren't going to be centered. Your presence is not going to take this space, because you don't matter. As an individual, you don't matter. As a collective, we're stronger. It's where you have no historic lens, and where that sort of privilege of whiteness says, welcome, I'm an authority, I'm this, and I'm gentle, and I'm soft, and I get it. She works with children, so it wasn't even like a targeted attack, but the response to that was people being like, leave Miss Rachel alone, she's done more for the cause. I was like, stop handing out praise like lollipops at the dentist. It is not something that needs to be awarded with gold medals to speak up for humanity. So we should just be able to say, press on, let's keep going, humble ourselves back to our intention, and we keep it moving.
Totally. And there was something that you wrote that really likened, for those of us that are late to the party, and look, hands up, I was like 33 years late to a party. Here now, but definitely late to the party. There was something that you wrote which was, turn up like you're late for class. Come in, hands up, like knees under the table, book out, get going. And there was something that a friend wrote which was showing up as if you are late to a funeral, where you just come in and you're present, you're in it. And I found that to be just such good, like, metaphors for those people showing up.
Exactly.
And oh God, what was my question going to be? Oh yeah, that, I think that in itself is something to be dismantled, right? This idea of being the expert, the idea of being the authority, because you brought up hierarchy earlier, right? And that's a very colonial white supremacist construct, that we go from one echo chamber into speaking the truth into another echo chamber, and then we accidentally, because of our systemic programming, then become an expert or an authority or a leader in speaking for other people, and we've just gone into the same old pitfall in a slightly better space, but in still quite a harmful way.
Yeah, exactly. And it's because the ego doesn't want collective activism without having a leader and without someone being the expert. And it's where you have to humble yourself and be like, I can sit and learn too. It was, I wrote the other day about sharing the videos of Anas's death. Yeah. And I said, please don't share that video, because actually, what is that for? These people lived lives, and that's their legacy. Their legacies are not their death. And upon reflection, and it's why reflection is always important, upon reflection, it was like, I'm not speaking to Palestinians about how they should share whatever they want to share. I'm speaking about us here in the West and what we should be doing, because I am not going to speak for Palestinians or to Palestinians about how they express grief or how they express their feelings around genocide. It's not for me to do. I'm not an authority. But what I can do is speak to people like me who live like me and suggest something, not as an authority, but as someone who has empathy, someone who has a platform, someone who has words, someone who has perspective on grief and loss, all of those things. And again, it was like, step back for a second, check yourself. Who are you speaking for? Who are you speaking to? And come back to the fight, because I would never want to be perceived as someone who thinks that they are an authority and that whose ego cannot allow them to join without dominating. I'll push back against that all the time for myself. And I'd like to think that people can do that for themselves as well.
I wanted to ask, with all of this in mind, what invitation would you want to give mothers at this time, either mothers or people within the mothering space?
So the invitation that I'd probably give them is come in. It's not, and again, I'm not saying to you to come into my space. I'm saying that the space already exists. The mothers already exist. It is to say that we are always here. And so join it. So whatever it is, if there are other mothers and if there are other people, join it. It's not gatekept as much as sometimes it can feel like it is. So it's tap into yourself and your strength. Recognize that everything that you have experienced has taught you something and is taking you somewhere, and decide to be active within that. Otherwise, it will take you, and it won't take you anywhere good. It won't take you anywhere of agency and autonomy. It will take you somewhere of conditioning and conforming. And ultimately, the places that we are taking are the places that we will take our children. So if you can't think of it for yourself, think about it for them and decide what it is and where it is that you want to take them.
Yeah. Just on the topic of children, and you've made content about this as well, of talk to the children. How do you talk to your children in age appropriate ways about what's happening in the world?
Yeah, my 3-year-old, obviously I don't really say much to him, but for my nearly 7-year-old, it is definitely about getting her to understand this world outside of good and evil. Good guy, bad guys, this, that, and the other. It's not really that. It's human, it's people existing, and how bad things happen to good people, and bad things also happen to bad people. We're having these conversations about why these things happen and what drives them. So even if we talk about things, and in the context of us, it's not a war, but if we talk about war, it's money. I will make sure she understands that money drives war. It's not good and evil. Like, money drives war. And that actually, for a lot of people, money is what is important to them. And as the lesson within that story for her, it's about who she is and how she understands herself and who she wants to be. And so it's like, how does that make you feel? And she'll say things like, are people doing bad things for money? And it's like, exactly. That sounds shit, doesn't it? If you speak to them again, like, you want them to understand, but that we have to tell them the truth. And when my mum died 3.5 years ago, and she was there. So as soon as she died, my daughter came into the room, and she was 3. And someone was saying something like, grandma's in heaven and you'll see her soon, and all of this stuff. And I thought, what idea do I want my child to have about death and where people go? And in a very age appropriate way, I just asked her, I was like, where do you think grandma is? She was like, she's still here. I still feel her sometimes. And I was like, I'm happy for that to be your truth. And children are capable of understanding things because they haven't been conditioned to believe something. And so if we let them, they'll teach us something. They understand right and wrong very well without looking for nuance and this, that, and the other. They're very clear. And so really, yes, there are age-appropriate ways to talk to them. But if we listen to them as well, we'll learn something.
I love that. It reminds me of a story that I was told a really long time ago by, it was actually an old Indian yoga teacher of mine that was saying that he was raised in India where they often are looked after by grandparents when the parents are away working. And he was saying that his grandfather used to take him everywhere. And he said to his grandfather, why do you always want to spend so much time with me? I'm always asking you questions and I'm always learning from you. And his grandfather said to him, what you don't realise is that you're the one teaching me.
Exactly that. So
yeah,
from the start, that's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. Don't take that away from them and don't disregard it as something that we don't need. My children anchor me all the time. And that's what they're there to do. We anchor them, they anchor us. This is like a give and take relationship in age appropriate ways. And it's constant lessons, man. It's constant lessons.
I just wanted to start to finish up by asking you what brings you hope at this time?
What brings me hope? What's bringing me hope is collective activism. It is the idea that once upon a time, the conversation of Israel and Palestine has been present in my family my whole life. 2 years ago, we never would have been able to see that people would be seeing Israel and the Israeli government for what it is. To see now people who once DM'd me asking me about being anti-Semitic, turning around and being like, wow, this ethno-state is not a thing, is like, okay. Like, I haven't completely lost faith in people's ability to evolve their thought, as long as it might take. So I suppose that is it, that we're all seeing things for what they are. And yeah, I think that's probably what gives me the most hope.
Definitely. I had Dr. Mo Mustafa, Beast from the Middle East, a few weeks ago on the podcast, and he said similar along the lines of no one could have necessarily predicted a day where people were out in the streets with no connection to Palestine or no direct connection to Palestine, because of course we're all interconnected, but people out in the streets wearing keffiyehs proudly. Yeah, I really hear that there, that despite this, the horrendousness of what we're seeing, Palestine being so centred and the fight for liberation being so centred, and what is also shone a light on of all the things that were going on perhaps like beneath the veil with the gloves, that all coming to the forefront and more people getting activated by that and finding each other. So yeah, similar. Anything else that you wanted to bring in to the conversation today?
The one thing I did want to say was I ended up having this sort of discourse with this woman in my DMs, and I generally don't reply. And she accused me of speaking into an echo chamber and asked me if that was beneficial to you. Seem to have a problem with listening to opinions that are different than yours. Do you think that speaking into your echo chamber is the way in which you grow? And I replied to her and I said, you want to shame me for having an echo chamber. But there is no shame here because this is a chamber that I have developed. So if I had no active role in what I had created as this safe echo chamber, then you could perhaps tell me that I was stupid and I'd fallen into it, but I'm not stupid. So I created something that says, yes, I can listen to other opinions, but also don't let people shame you for your echo chamber. Part of being boundaried and protecting your peace is having an echo chamber. But the way in which people develop echo chambers is through seeing what's outside of them and seeing what is. Those of us who are critical thinkers, we look at both sides of arguments and then we develop opinions and then we form echo chambers around those. So we know what's outside and we have just rejected it. So for me, it's I said to her, I was like, the thing is, I get what you're trying to say. And in the context of Israel and Gaza, I hear you, but there are some things that we can't disagree on. We can't disagree on ethnic cleansing and we can't disagree on displacement. We can't disagree on settler colonialism or genocide or mass starvation. We also can't disagree on like Marmite and blue cheese. Like, these are things that I'm saying, actually, no, they're not things that we disagree on. And so when someone tries to come for you, if you are advocating for Palestine and someone says to you, oh, you're just speaking into an echo chamber, you say, yes, I am. I've developed that echo chamber through the knowledge that I have acquired and the way in which I'm protecting my peace from the danger and the nastiness that exists outside of it. So if you have an echo chamber, let there be people in there that hold you to account. But don't let there be people in there that have opposing opinions to things that we can't disagree on. That's not an echo chamber. This is a protection, and we are worthy of having that protection. That is my little addition.
Thank you so much for sharing that. We'll just wrap up. What is next for you, and how can people connect with you?
Gosh, I have no idea what's next. I've developed a sort of long-term listening service for people to come and see me more regularly. So rather than one-off sessions, they come and see me for either 3, 6 or 9. I am all about the building of community and the development of self. And so to support people along that journey is really exciting. I'm currently battling this idea of sharing food content while people starve. And so I'm trying to figure out how to navigate that in an intentional and more serving way. So hopefully there'll be more food stuff. This advocacy is forever. And so stick around. Like, that's what you're going to get. You can find me at Illiyin Morrison. And that's what you're going to get, because it's always going to be free Palestine until it's backwards, free Sudan and free Congo. And we'll keep fighting for it until there's nothing to fight for.
That we will. Thank you so much for your time this morning. I know that we've gone over, but I so appreciate everything that you've shared, and just so great to share space with you. So thank you.
Very welcome.
Thank you for listening. It's great to have you with me on this journey towards higher love for all. Our time is our greatest commodity and gift, so thanks for investing it in yourself and sharing it with me. Please do take a moment to rate and review the show, all of which enables more people to find me and for me to connect with more great guests each week for both yours and my enjoyment. All links, references and contact information is detailed too within the show notes. And I always love to hear your feedback, so feel free to hit me up on my Instagram at higherlove_with_Megan or via my website higher-love.com. Send your takeaways, and if you enjoyed this episode, please share or send on to someone else who would benefit. Until next time, big love.